This video is going to focus on solving another type of equation known as a proportion. Now, proportions should be somewhat familiar to us. We've seen them before, but we don't talk about them all that much. So just as a reminder, a proportion is nothing more than one ratio. So for example, in this proportion here, one ratio is 11/6. And being a proportion, that ratio is equal to another ratio, in this case, x/25. So this proportion is made up of the ratio 11/6 is equal to x/25. And the easiest way for us to solve a proportion is by using cross products. So we're just essentially going to cross multiply on the diagonals, and we're going to create an equation that we can then use SIS, simplify, isolate, solve for. Okay, so it's actually a fairly straightforward process, but the one thing I do want to focus on, and it's not so relevant for solving these proportions that are equations right now, but later on down the road, when we solve proportions that are inequalities, it is going to matter how we go about doing the cross multiplying. So we'll actually skip this first one. We'll go right into this second problem here. So what we're going to do is we're going to cross multiply the 8 times the 10. And of course, that's going, so we can see, if you really want to see the whole thing, that's going to be 8 times 10. We know that's 80, is equal to the cross product, is equal to the cross product of 3m times 7. So we're saying 3m times 7, which is 21m. That cross product is equal to 8 times 10, the other cross product, okay? Now, this is where I really want to make sure that I emphasize the importance of which way we go. If you notice, I did 8 times 10. I traveled uphill is what I'll say. And I wrote that result on the right-hand side. And likewise, when I did the other cross product, 7 times 3m, I also traveled uphill. So I multiplied the 7 specifically times the 3m and wrote that result on the left-hand side. And I know that may seem insignificant, but down the road, it's really going to make a difference, as I said, when we get to multiplying, or I'm sorry, when we get to solving these proportions, but not in the form of equations, but in the form of inequalities. The bottom line is, at this point, all we're left to do is to solve this resulting equation. And this is a pretty straightforward equation. It's a one-step equation we created. And by solving, we will simply divide both sides by 21. So I should get m is equal to, and remember, I want to leave this as an improper fraction. Just simply reduce it if I can. And to the best of my knowledge, I can't reduce this any further. So our final answer is going to be 80/21. And the reason why I know that's not reducible is because I'm going to focus on the factors of the smaller of these two numbers. 21 has factors of 1, 3, 7, and 21. None of those factors go into 80, so I've exhausted all possibility for reducing. Okay, so that's our final answer, quick and simple like that. So let's do one more. The next one we're going to work on is this proportion down here. And as I said, I actually want to travel uphill. Now let me explain why. I didn't really get into the reason behind that earlier. By cross multiplying this d minus 3 with the 6, essentially what I'm doing, and you don't have to write this down, but essentially what I'm doing is multiplying the left side by the equivalent of 1, d minus 3 over d minus 3. I'm sorry, let's cancel that out. What I'm essentially doing is multiplying it by d minus 3 over 1. And that's what's going to allow me to cancel the d minus 3's out. But being that this is an equation, I have to do that on the right-hand side. So I'm going to have to multiply this by d minus 3 over 1 as well. And you notice, whoops, let's cancel that. The d minus 13 stays, but I am going to get the equivalent of this 6 being multiplied by d minus 3. So I can do that. That's going to be 6 times d minus 6 times 3, which is times 18. Okay. Likewise, what's going to happen, I'm going to erase all this just so you can see what's going on here. When I go to get rid of this denominator, d minus 13, I'm going to multiply the right side by d minus 13 over 1. And I'm going to multiply the left side by d minus 13 over 1. And again, you notice the d minus 13's cancel. That's the whole idea of what we're looking to accomplish here. And this d minus 13 is essentially traveling uphill and is then being multiplied or distributed with the 18. So that's going to give me 18d minus, let's see, I'm going to have to do a little bit of work off to the side here, 18 times 13. There's my 24, 54, 8, 1, because 1 times 18 is 18. There's 4, there's 3. Looks like I get 234 out of that, right? So let's see. So I got 18d minus 234. So that's actually the reason why we travel uphill, because if you see it, when the way that we're going about canceling these denominators is by multiplying the entire equation by that denominator now as a numerator over 1, and we get the canceling out on the one side, but the traveling uphill, so to speak, on the other side. So that's what we want to be mindful of doing moving forward. So let me reiterate one more time what we're doing, and I'll just, as I said, I'll just erase this so you can see more consistently with the way that we did it in the earlier problem. I'm taking this d minus 3 and I'm cross multiplying it with the 6, but we're distributing here, so realize that that was 6 parentheses d minus 3. That's what fed right there. I'm taking this d minus 13 and I'm cross multiplying it with the 18, and that was the equivalent to distributing the 18 to the d minus 13. That's what gave us this left side over here. And now we're ready just to solve this as an equation using simplify, isolate, solve. So that being said, the first thing I like to do is to focus on the variable terms, particularly in this case, because I have a variable and a constant is equal to a variable and a constant. And I'll move the lower valued variable term. Now, that's not an absolute. That's just sticking to the method that I like to follow. And that's going to, by subtracting 6d, that's going to force me to have a positive coefficient for my variable moving forward. So now I'm at 12d minus 234 is equal to negative 18. Naturally, from here, since I am left with the two-step equation, it makes sense for me to add 234 to both sides. And that's going to give me 12d is equal to 216. And our last step, now that we're left with the one-step equation, simply divide by 12. And that should get me, if I have my multiplication facts correct, that should give me 216 divided by 12 is 18. Okay, so that's where we stand. Okay, so the process of solving proportions, cross multiply, try to remember to multiply uphill. Okay, so I'm going to actually just put that here. Multiply uphill. And then just use simplify, isolate, solve to finish solving our equation. Okay. The last two problems are yours to solve using cross products. This one here, I'll just quickly set up for you because this is not in the traditional proportional setup where we see one ratio equal to another. So we need to think of this is to as our fraction bar. So W is to 35. I can think of as W over 35. W is to 35 as is like my equal sign. 7 is to 4. So that just needs some quick translation for you, potentially. So that's how you take a word problem proportion and convert it to the math list, so to speak. And now you're ready to roll. Don't forget, use your cross products and leave your answers as improper fractions simplify as applicable. We'll come back to class and do more practice tomorrow. See you then.